Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are now in day 32 of the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And before I talk about the new military map that I have up and talk about some of the things that you're seeing on this map, I wanted to talk about some very recent events that have become known within the last 24 or so hours. So, over the course of this conflict, I would say that the Ukrainian state, the Ukrainian military, has done a really fantastic job in terms of controlling the propaganda side of this military. I mean, of this conflict. They have, for all intents and purposes, have been able to achieve in dehumanizing the Russian military to where many individuals are identifying Russians as orcs from fantasy types of genres of video games and movies, orcs. And I think there's a couple of different reasons why that's occurring. But again, that's kind of what we're seeing coming out of the mass media, and specifically in regards to some of the Ukrainian information coming out on how they perceive Russian troops. Now, obviously, there's reasons for that, and again, this is war. It's very, very nasty. We are seeing, obviously, civilian targets being hit by the Russians. At the same time, we are seeing Ukrainian military units fight within the confines of civilian areas, and inherently, this is what happens. And the Ukrainians have been doing a very, very marvelous job on the propaganda side of this conflict, specifically in Western media as well. But recently, I've had the chance, the unfortunate chance, I would say, to observe the treatment of Russian prisoners of war allegedly at the hands of Ukrainian military personnel. And we don't know what military unit this was occurring. Was it a Ukrainian National Guard? Was it Ukrainian intelligence? Was it Ukrainian regular military territorial defense? We just don't know at this point. But I think we will soon find out. And in this video, you can clearly see Russian prisoners of war being sprawled out on the ground. You can clearly see that they have been beaten. Normally, one's face is not swollen as if you just went 12 rounds with Mike Tyson. That is not normal. So that indicates that these soldiers were harshly beaten by their Ukrainian captors. What's even more disturbing is the fact that many of these individuals appear to have been shot post-capture in the legs. And again, just a really horrific video that is out there. I would encourage you not to watch it, not to seek it out. But again, that is what is happening, and I can tell you, even as far back as just a couple of weeks ago, I was observing a Russian POW who was basically lambasting his military command. He was really now against the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and he basically was saying he was forced to do this, and they had no idea initially they were going to be entering the Ukraine, and blah blah blah. Now, what you noticed about this picture of this soldier who's talking, both video and just an actual photograph, is again, he looks like he went 12 rounds with Tyson Fury. And I mean, you have to wonder, what's happening. And I would say, based on the testimony of that specific soldier, the Ukrainians beat the shit out of this kid and required him to say what he was saying. On the surface, you take it for what it is. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback and in negative comments in terms of being pro-Russian, but look, there's the facts, and it's happening, and again, you can't deny it. Now, with that being said, is this the turning point where certain components of this propaganda campaign by the Ukrainians start to unravel, specifically in regards to the treatment of some of these alleged POWs? And again, I am saying alleged. Again, we're not 100% sure that this is what it is, but again, it looks very, very much like, in fact, what it is, and that is Ukrainian armed forces torturing Russian soldiers post-capture. And that's only going to hurt the Ukrainian cause, because number one, I'm sure this video is going to be shown by the Russian military to its individual soldiers and say, hey, look, this is what happens if you're captured. So the likelihood of Russians wanting to surrender en masse, depending on what's happening, that is going to go out the window, especially if they believe they're going to get shot in the leg just for the hell of it. And again, contrary to what the President of the United States says in regards to some of the issues that happen in the United States in regards to policing, no, you just can't shoot someone in the leg. If you shoot someone in the leg, there's a high probability you're going to kill them, especially if you're shooting them in the leg with an AK-47. Again, very large arteries in the leg, and you can bleed out very, very quickly if you are in fact shot in the leg. And again, I would imagine that several of those Ukrainian soldiers who were indeed shot in the leg are probably no longer with us. I mean, the Russian soldiers that were shot in the leg are probably no longer with us. But that I think that again is going to eventually bite the Ukrainians in the ass in terms of kind of what is out there now and starting to filter out. Now, with that being said, very, very nasty conflict, and inherently, as this war continues and the type of war that we're seeing, it's only going to get worse. So prepare yourself for that. Now, in regards to Russians being captured, I wanted to start up with this new map near Kiev, and very a significant operation underway by the Ukrainians, and they appear to be attempting to encircle and seize control of the Antonov air base just near Hostomel. And we know there has been very, very tenacious engagements through the course of the conflict in this area, and right now we are seeing the Ukrainian forces attacking on multi-accesses towards the major air base, or it's not a major air base, it's an air base to the northwest of Kiev. Obviously, the blue indicates Ukrainian movements, and we have seen Ukrainian counterattacks within the confines of the Kiev area operation, both again on the eastern side of the Dnieper River towards Brovary, and we've also seen now the Ukrainian military attempt what by all appearances is to circumvent and cut off those Russian forces that are kind of in this salient down here towards Hostomel and the main airport. Now, we do know that the Russians are attempting to reinforce its position. At the same time, we're seeing renewed Russian advances within the vicinity of Chernihiv. The mayor of Chernihiv is reporting that, in fact, the city has been cut off. Right now, it would appear that there's still one road leading out of Chernihiv, and again, it's very possible that road could be attacked by Russian forces that are very, very close to that area. As I zoom in here, you can kind of clearly see what I'm talking about. And if the Russians have blown the bridge south of Chernihiv, then in all probability it is cut off, and it would be very, very difficult for the Ukrainian military to supply Chernihiv. And at this point, we anticipate that Chernihiv could fall within the next days and or weeks. We continue to see Russian forces operating now more aggressively in the eastern portions of Ukraine, specifically, again, as I talked about before, near Donetsk and Luhansk. They appear, meaning the Russians, appear to be maneuvering to circumvent major Ukrainian combat brigades that are positioned facing the eastern separatist locales. But again, as you can see, and I think this map does an excellent job of showing you kind of where the Russians are advancing and kind of why they're doing what they're doing. And it would appear that they're trying to circumvent and seal off Severodonetsk. Again, you have terrain features such as rivers, the Severodonetsk River, that could be cut off, and if that happens, again, very, very difficult for those Ukrainian forces that are defending Severodonetsk to continue to be provided with ammunition and supplies, food, weaponry, and what have you. We continue to see the Russians now attempt to cut Mariupol in half. The goal appears to be, as you can see here, a movement towards obviously downtown Mariupol, and then cutting that section off with the major river that kind of cuts the industrial area of Mariupol with the western area of Mariupol as well. And as we know, the city has been incredibly shelled and rubbleized over the course of the last few weeks. And right now we anticipate that quite possibly the city will fall within the next few days to upwards to a few weeks, depending on how much supplies the Ukrainian military in Mariupol has stored. Again, frontline city, so the likelihood it was fairly well prepared for conflict. But again, the Russians continue to pound and maneuver towards inside of Mariupol with the intent of breaking the defenders back and then eventually seizing control of the city at some point. The area where we observed the captured Russians would appear to have been, or reported to have been, near Kharkiv. Obviously, this locale, this was an initial major push by the Russians, and that offensive obviously has since stalled, and we have again seen limited Ukrainian counterattacks within the vicinity of Kharkiv as well. And again, we're not really seeing the sorts of reconnaissance in force and battalion tactical group size operations by the Russians to kind of force their way closer to Kharkiv. That's not being done right now. And again, we're actually starting to see more Ukrainian minor counterattacks within the vicinity of Kharkiv. But that's the situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Then one other area, again, it continues to be Mykolaiv. Again, another area, again, where we're seeing the Ukrainians attempt counterattacks with the appearance to push the Russian forces away, again, from Mykolaiv. And again, as I talked about before, I think the likelihood of crossing, crossing towards Odessa via Mykolaiv and quite possibly further north, I think that's off the table for right now. Again, Odessa, huge city, and given the challenges with the Russian military of just being able to push towards Mykolaiv at this point, would really rule out a operation towards Odessa at this point. And again, we are seeing the Ukrainians surprisingly launch counter operations towards the Russian lines near Kherson. We're also hearing reports of partisan activity, insurgent type activity taking place inside of Kherson. Again, big city, and quite possibly Ukrainian sleeper units are very much active or now active inside of Kherson, engaging and attacking Russian forces. Now, with that being said, there are certain traditional ways of dealing with partisan activity that you can harken back to World War II, and you can witness how the German army, for instance, took care of said activity. Even the United States and Russians and Allied forces during World War II. Partisans can, in the end, start to be treated very, very harshly. And I would not be surprised at some point if we start to see public executions or public hangings, given the nature of this conflict. And again, as this conflict continues, it's a very high intensity conflict. It's going to become personal for a lot of individual soldiers and even battlefield commanders on the ground, i.e., which some of the footage that we've recently seen with those Ukrainian forces allegedly torturing Russian POWs. But again, unfortunately, it's the nature of war. It's going to be the nature of war within the confines of this conflict as well, unfortunately, because this is what it's becoming. This is what it's morphing into. And some of the activities by really kind of both forces, again, are going to kind of make this personal for both sides. And that's where you inherently are going to see a uptick in what you could define as war crimes or crimes against humanity, or just individual actions by individual units who are just really frustrated and fed up with the conflict in total, and eventually take that out on the opposing force. And again, not uncommon, and unfortunately we're starting to see that now, and we'll probably see much more of it as the conflict continues. But if I missed anything, I apologize. That's where we're sitting right now. Obviously, as the situation warrants, we'll have more very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.